My mic wasn't working. Thank you. So my mic wasn't working for the first minute. That's okay. That's okay. 49 seconds. We caught ourselves. So how's it coming across on your end? Let me turn down. My mic wasn't working. Thank you. So my mic wasn't working for the first minute. That's okay. Can you hear the music? Just curious, chat. I can hear it. I'm wondering if you can hear it. I'm going to get going. I'm going to start soon. Just want to give the opportunity for people to get in, for me to work out any other bugs, like my mic being muted, you know, those sorts of things. Yes. Well, I think I should just start. Hey, Alex, how's it going? Can you hear me and music and see everything all right? Just it looks better with the ear cups on. I don't know. Hold on. Oh, it gets crazy. It gets a little out of control. It's a little out of control without it. You know what I mean? Otherwise, there's things all over the place. Should probably turn off some of the mod. Well, we can keep them going. If I see anything outlandish, I'll turn it off. I want to just get into it. Sound and visual is good. Then I think we should just jump in. The Declaration of Independence, a transcription. Note, the following text is a transcription of the stone engraving of the parchment Declaration of Independence, the document on display in the rotunda at the National Archives Museum. The spelling and punctuation reflects the original. In Congress, July 4th, 1776. The unanimous declaration of the 13 United States of America, when in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these rights are life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed, that whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or to abolish, and to institute new government, laying its foundation on such principles and organizing its powers in such form as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safety and happiness. Prudence, indeed, will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shown that mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable, than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. There's a lot to unpack there, chat, huh? Hey, Logan. I'm picking up on the capital S, safety, and capital H, happiness. That's an interesting abbreviation, not abbreviation, capitalization there. And you gotta wonder why. I believe that everything is the same here. Punctuation, is that what we're saying? It's a transcription of the stone engraving. Spelling and punctuation reflects the original. So, I think they're putting an emphasis on safety and happiness. And I'd probably imagine safety to a certain degree. Happiness is so, as Jordan Peterson might say, happiness, it's very fleeting, right? So I wonder what they meant by that. I wonder what they meant by it. Satisfaction? I don't know. Chat, let me know what you think, what they meant by happiness, knowing that some of these people, the founders, were practicing Stoics, maybe not in name, but the principles. So what do you think they meant by happiness? Oh, sugar. Safety is self-explanatory. And no, we didn't deconstruct the Declaration of Independence in law school. I feel like that was maybe in high school, but if we did, I wasn't paying attention, or I just, this particular part escaped me. Maybe I left for the restroom. Latrine. Alex says safety and happiness is something that the Democratic Party is trying to get rid of. Well, maybe. But I wonder what the founders would have meant when they wrote happiness. Okay, John Locke. I think that might have been. Yeah. So Jefferson famously wrote, "The people have the unalienable right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness." And so I think it's the Enlightenment philosophy, particularly the ideas and thinkers of the John Locke, the school of thought, let's say. Join the military, we're not at war. 50 grand to join the Navy right now. If you're smart enough, we're not at war. What are you worried about? That's interesting. All right, we should move on. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations, pursuing invariably the same object, evidences a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been the patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present King of Britain, Great Britain, is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having in direct object the establishment of an absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused his assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance, unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be attained. And when so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass other laws for the accommodation of large districts of people, unless those people would relinquish the right of representation legislature, a right inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records, for the sole purposes of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. That is what you call move. You know what I'm saying? He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. With manly firmness. Yeah. Let me read that again with the right gusto. He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness his invasions on the rights of the people. He has refused for a long time, after such dissolutions, to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers, incapable of annihilation, have returned to the people at large for their exercise, the state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without and convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose, obstructing the laws of naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage their migrations hither, and raising the conditions of new appropriations of lands. He has obstructed the administration of justice by refusing his assent to laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone for the tenure of their offices and the amount and payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat out their substance. I don't know why I'm having such a problem with the word hither. It's like my brain sees it and does not want to read it. Like, it's like, what is this? What is this word? Okay. He has kept among us, in times of peace, standing armies without the consent of our legislatures. He has effected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He has combined with others to subject us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving us his assent to their acts of pretended legislation. And I don't know, I have to imagine there is a purpose behind certain capitalizations, and we'll dig deeper maybe on another landmark stream. Maybe we can get Mike Lee on to explain to us, assent to their actions. Maybe capital A, because when the king is doing the action, it's capitalized. That's a guess. Let me just give it a crack and see if it's answered here. Capitalization is often used to emphasis. So maybe it's like a bold or underlining, I think. Capitalizing assent draws attention to the term, emphasizing the significance of the act or giving or withholding approval. In the context of assent, refers to the formal approval by a ruler or governing authority, in his case King George III, to pass laws, to laws passed by the colony's legislative bodies. Capitalizing assent in the text underscores the importance of his approval as critical function of governance. So because he's king, it's my first guess there. Okay, onward. For quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial, for punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states. Now this is starting to remind me of something, like the mock trials that our federal agencies, undergo when they are accidentally murder someone in their home, which we've seen. This has happened before. Recently, the ATF, in the Malinowski raid, this is the pistol brace rule. This is following the pistol brace rule. They were investigating Malinowski. They had a warrant to search his home, and they were going to search his home, and they were ready to search his home, but he wasn't there, which would have been a great time to search his home. But they called off that raid, and they raided him a week later when, in the pre-dawn hours, with long guns and ballistic shields, they taped up his cameras. They were in. He did what anybody would do. They didn't announce themselves. It was pretty much a break-in by the government, and he shot off a warning shot, and they mowed him down. That's what this reminds me of. Onward. For cutting off our trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of the benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses. So what does that remind me of is, if they're able to actually, and this is if they, England is able to bring over anybody, extradite us for what we would think a First Amendment offense, right? Because they are calling out Americans saying, you are subject to our Online Communications Act. That's what this reminds me of. These documents, they do still ring true. For taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments. For suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the power to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burnt our towns, and destroyed the lives of our people. Does that sound familiar, chat? It doesn't. It doesn't repeat itself, history, but it does rhyme. I think that's what I think that was Mark Twain, Samuel Clemens, something like that. Something like that. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny already begun with the circumstances of cruelty and perfidy scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on the high seas, to bear arms against their country, to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections among us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers the merciless Indian savages whose known rule of warfare is undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. And so, while you might think, what does that remind me of? And you might think January 6th, yes, but that's more of the Nancy Pelosi, whatever you call her reign of terror, the way that she orchestrated that. This reminds me of so King George III is a little bit of Biden and Nancy Pelosi all rolled into one. Probably Schumer. The tyrannical way that they run things and have run things for years. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble terms. Our repeated petitions have been answered only by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of all of a free people. Nor have we been wanting in the attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by their legislature to extend an unwarrantable jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of our emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. And we have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interrupt our connections and correspondence. They too have been deaf to the voice of justice and of consanguinity. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace and friends. In peace, friends. Let me read that last one. We must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them, as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace, friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America, in General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do, in the name and by authority of good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are, and of right, ought to be free and independent states, that they are absolved from all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is and ought to be totally dissolved, and that as free and independent states, they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and things which independent states may of right do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Powerful stuff. Powerful stuff. Was I reading that too loud, chat? Did I scare? How am I doing? I got into it for a minute. You get into it. You can't help it. and some of it does feel like it does, it's still relevant today. That's what I was trying to say, Agent 39. It's funny your name's Agent 39. The UK is, I think under the Communications Act of 1992 or something like that. I gotta look it up. What's the UK Communications Act? I left part of that off. 2003. Perhaps. I don't know if Westlaw is into the I don't think okay. It's got federal, it's got all the states. I don't know if it's got England, I don't think that's part of it. All right, everything's going good. It's a little the cadence is catching me. You know what I mean? I would like to give it another go sometime. Maybe at another benchmark we can do the entire read through the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Declaration of Independence. It would be Declaration of Independence first, the Constitution, and then the Bill of Rights, if you want to do it chronologically. Now, I was thinking we can get through a Federalist paper. I want to see how this works. One of the Federalist papers, because there's 85 of them, I believe. There's 85 essays written by Alexander Hamilton, John Jay, Jefferson, I think, wrote a few. Let me see. Yes. Hamilton, Madison, John Jay. Maybe not Jefferson at all. Stay tuned. We'll find out. Okay. Federalist Papers number 1. General Introduction for the Independent Journal, Hamilton. And I don't think he published this under his name. I think it was published under the pseudonym Publius. So, to the people of the state of New York, after an unequivocal experience of the inefficiency of the subsisting federal government, you are called upon to deliberate on a new constitution for the United States of America. The subject speaks its own importance, comprehending in its consequences nothing less than the existence of the Union, the safety and welfare of the part of which it is composed, the fate of an empire in many respects, the most interesting in the world. It has been frequently remarked that it seems to have been reserved to the people of this country, by their conduct and example, to decide the important question whether societies of men are really capable or not of establishing good government from reflection and choice, or whether they are forever destined to depend on for their political constitutions on accident and force. If there be any truth in the remark, the crisis at which we are arrived may with propriety be regarded as the era in which that decision is to be made, and a wrong election of the part we shall act may, in this view, deserve to be considered as the general misfortune of mankind. This idea will add the inducements of philanthropy to those of patriotism, to heighten the solicitude which all considerate and good men must feel for the event. Happy, again with the word happy, not joy, happy, joy. Happy will it be if our choice should be directed by a judicious estimate of our true interests, unperplexed and unbiased by considerations not connected with the public good. But this is a thing more ardently to be wished than seriously to be expected. The plan offered to our deliberations affects too many particular interests, innovates upon too many local institutions, not to involve in its discussion a variety of objects, foreign to its merits, and of views, passions, and prejudices, little favorable to the discovery of truth. Reading this reminds me why I didn't like reading old-timey books. When I was a kid, I had to struggle all the way through them because something about the way that they put thoughts together, it's a little different than we do today, right? It's, you give it a try. I'm just kidding. How's it going, by the way? I gotta keep looking up every once in a while. So we are on Federalist Paper number 1 here. Among the most formidable of the obstacles which the new Constitution will have to encounter may readily be distinguished the obvious interest of a certain class of men in every state to resist all changes which may hazard a diminution of the power, emolument, and consequence of the offices they hold under the state's establishments, and the perverted ambition of another class of men who will either hope to aggrandize themselves by confusions of their country, or will flatter themselves with fairer prospects of elevation. Oh dear. Fairer prospects of elevation from the subdivision of the empire into several partial confederacies than from its union under one government. It is not, however, my design to dwell upon observations of this nature. I am well aware that it would be disingenuous to resolve indiscriminately the opposition of any set of men merely because their situations might subject them to suspicion into interested or ambitious views. What do we have coming across? Thank you, Jacqueline, gifted a membership to Benjamin Lewis. Welcome, Benjamin Lewis. I hope you have some fun with the dank emojis. Okay. I'll start that again. It is not, however, my design to dwell upon observations of this nature. I am well aware that this would be disingenuous to resolve them indiscriminately, the opposition of any set of men merely because their situations might subject them to suspicion into interested or ambitious views. Candor will oblige us to admit that even such men may be actuated by upright intentions, and it cannot be doubted that much of the opposition which has made its appearance, or may hereafter make its appearance, will spring from sources blameless, at least, if not respectable, the honest errors of minds led astray by preconceived jealousies and fears. So numerous indeed, and so powerful are the causes which serve to give a false bias to the judgment, that we, upon many occasions, see wise and good men on the wrong as well as on the right side of questions of the first magnitude of society. This circumstance, and I did it again, this circumstance, if duly attended to, would furnish a lesson of moderation to those who are ever so much persuaded of their being in the right in any controversy, and a further reason for caution in this respect might be drawn from the reflection that we are not always sure that those who advocate the truth are influenced by purer principles than their antagonists. Ambition, avarice, personal animosity, party opposition, and many other motives not more laudable than these are apt to operate as well upon those who support as those who oppose the right side of a question. Where this, you know what this reminds me of recently, chat, is the effort to remove Secret Service details. Obviously, this is on my mind because I've been working on this and we've been watching it. I've been very interested in it again. It kind of got away from me. They started July 22nd, 23rd. There was a forum this week from the House Republicans. That first we had Cheadle, the director, and then we had another hearing, the local police there in Pennsylvania, the state police, and then we had the FBI and the new Secret Service director in front of the Senate, and then we had House Republicans forum. So it reminds me of something like that. I lost my place. Magnitude of society, circumstances unduly attended, led into yes. Were there not even these inducements to moderation, nothing could be more ill-judged than the intolerant spirit which has at all times characterized political parties. For in politics, as in religion, it is equally absurd to aim at making proselytes by fire and swords. Hearsays, and either can rarely be cured by persecution. Okay, what I was going to say was it reminds me of the effort to remove the security detail of Trump. That came out several times that they want, and there was even a bill to by the ranking member of, I forget which committee it was. One of the ranking members, one of the Democrats, wanted a bill to reduce the number of Secret Service agents, essentially Trump has. for the purpose of what else? What other purpose is there to see him harmed? So it's really nasty stuff that this politics stuff gets into, huh? And yet, however, just these sentiments will be allowed to be. We have already sufficient indications that it will happen in this, as in all former cases of great national discussion. A torrent of angry and malignant passions will be let loose. To judge from the conduct of the opposite parties, we shall be led to conclude that they will mutually hope to evince the justness of their opinions, and to increase the number of their converts by the loudness of their declamations, and the bitterness of their invectives. Invectives, not a word that I use. An enlightened zeal for the energy and efficiency of government will be stigmatized as the offspring of a temper fond and despotic power and hostile to the principles of liberty. An over-scrupulous jealousy of danger to the right principles jealousy of danger to the rights of the people, which is more commonly the fault of the head than of the heart, will be represented as mere pretense and artifice, the stale bait for the popularity and the expense of the public good. It will be forgotten, on the one hand, that the jealousy in this usual concomitant of love and the noble enthusiasm of liberty is apt to be infected with a spirit of narrow and illiberal distrust. On the other hand, it will be equally forgotten that the vigor of government is essential to the security of liberty, that the in contemplation of a sound and well-informed judgment, their interest can never be separated, and that the dangerous ambition more often lurks behind the specious mask of zeal for the rights of the people than under the forbidden appearance of zeal for the firmness and efficiency of government. History will teach us that the former has been found a much more certain road to the introduction of the despotism than the latter, and that of those men who have overturned the liberties of republics, the greatest number have begun their career by paying an obsequious court to the people, commencing demagogues and ending tyrants. Okay, there's a little bit to unpack there, and I'm sorry I'm reading probably like I'm in high school again. These aren't the easiest documents to read, okay? That's all I'll say, not out loud. So, the former, not the latter. History will teach us that the former has been found. On the other hand, okay, so it would have been helpful, said on one hand, and then on the other hand. It's easier to kind of spot. An over-scrupulous jealousy of danger to the rights of the people, which is more commonly the fault of the head than of the heart, will be represented as a mere pretense and artifice, the stale bait for popularity at the expense of the public good. It will be forgotten, on the one hand, that the jealousy is the usual concomitant of love, and that the noble enthusiasm of liberty is apt to be infected with a spirit of narrow and illiberal distrust. Let me go ahead and see if we can get some sort of I think that's not the worst idea, is to get some sort of input here. On the one hand, and then on the other hand, let's just say plain English. People tend to forget that love often comes with jealousy, just like the passion for liberty can lead to narrow-minded and distrustful attitudes. On the flip side, it's also often forgotten that a strong government is crucial to keeping liberty secure. A wise and informed perspective recognizes that the liberty and strong government should go hand in hand. A wise and informed perspective recognizes that liberty and strong government should go hand in hand, and that dangerous ambitions are more likely to hide behind fake concern for people's rights than behind efforts to make the government strong and effective. Okay, let me unpack that one more time. Dangerous ambitions are more likely to hide behind fake concern for people's rights. Exactly. Than behind efforts to make the government strong and effective. This is so true. History shows us that those who have destroyed the freedoms of republics often started by pretending to care deeply about people, acting like champions of the people at first, but then eventually becoming tyrants. It's so true. It's so true. We still see this today. When they say, one of the things that I remember in law school is that they said, this is one of the more, I guess, jaded professors would say, when they say it's for the children, you know, there's something else going on. There's another, a motive there, right? They want to get reelected, they're raising fundraising, stuff like that, you know? It's for the children. You should always be, I guess a little, but I guess some politicians really do feel that way, but, this particular professor, who I didn't always agree with, let's say, he felt that that's what that meant. That was code for, something else. Let's refill the coffers, fundraising-wise. In the course of preceding observations, I have had an eye, my fellow citizens, to putting you upon your guard against all attempts from whatever quarter to influence your decision in a matter of the utmost moment to your welfare by any impressions other than those which may result from the evidence of truth. You will no doubt at the same time have collected from the general scope of them that they proceed from a source not unfriendly to the new Constitution. Yes, my countrymen, I own to you that after having given it an attentive consideration, I am clearly of opinion it is your interest to adopt it. It's funny. I've given a lot of thought, and I think it's in your best interest to go along with what I'm saying. I am convinced that this is the safest course for your liberty, your dignity, and your happiness. I affect not reserves which I do not feel. I affect not reserves which I do not feel. That's what it says. I will not amuse you with an appearance of deliberation when I have decided. I frankly acknowledge to you my convictions, and I will freely lay before you the reasons on which they are founded. The consciousness of good intentions disdains ambiguity. I shall not, however, multiply professions on this head. Multiply professions on this head. My motives must remain in the depository of my own breast. My arguments will be open to all, and may be judged of by all. They shall at least be offered in a spirit which will not disgrace the cause of truth. I propose in a series of papers to discuss the following interesting particulars. The utility of the Union to your political prosperity, the inefficiency of the present Confederation to preserve that Union, the necessity of a government at least equally energetic with the one proposed, to the attainment of this object, to the conformity of the proposed Constitution to the true principles of republican government. It is its analogy to your own state constitution, and lastly, the additional security which its adoption will afford to the preservation of that species of government, to liberty and to property. And what I picked up on here was of a government at least equally energetic with the one proposed, because even the government, look at me fixing my little collar, recognizes you'll call into a government agency, federal agency, and be like, I can't get through the phone tree. And they're like, yeah, we're pretty sure it's designed for you not to get through. And they're half kidding, but half not kidding. The government is so overbloated and ineffective. It's nobody's job to do anything. It's very, I guess you would say it's lethargic. It's not energetic, right? It's become bloated. We need some of that Malay energy, that afuera, But let's go onward. In the progress of this discussion, I shall endeavor to give a satisfactory answer to all the objections which shall have made their appearance that may seem to have any claim to your attention. It may perhaps be thought superfluous to offer arguments to prove the utility of the Union, a point, no doubt, deeply engraved on the hearts of the great body of the people in every state, and one which it may be imagined has no adversaries. But the fact is that we already hear it whispered in the private circles of those who oppose the new Constitution, that the 13 states are of too great extent for any general system, and that we must of necessity resort to the separate confederacies of distinct portions of the whole. This doctrine will, in all probability, be gradually propagated till it has votaries enough to countenance an open avowal of it. Excuse me, chat. For nothing could be more evident to those who are able to take an enlarged view of the subject than the alternative of an adoption of the new Constitution or dismemberment of the Union. It will therefore be of use to begin by examining the advantages of that Union, the certain evils, and the probable dangers to which every state will be exposed from its dissolution. This shall accordingly constitute the subject of my next address. Publius. Okay. Quick discussion. So, what are we looking at here? It sounds like the new Constitution. Let's click on that link. It's the Constitution. So, and this is Hamilton. And he wasn't arguing against the new Constitution. He was doing the opposite. He was arguing in favor of it. In this excerpt, Hamilton is acknowledging that some people might think, it's unnecessary to argue for the importance of a union because most people already believe in it. However, he points out that there are people who privately oppose the new Constitution. I see. So, totally lost in translation, so to speak here. Not the easiest. Like I said, people like Mike Lee, he's Senator Mike Lee from Utah. He's written books, not just about the subject matter, but about the founders who wrote it that didn't really make the history books. I believe his book's written out of history. It's one of those, it's on my nightstand, let's say. There's a stack of things I'm getting through right now. G-Man, which is about Hoover. Mike Lee's written out of history. And I'm also working on Clarence Thomas's My Grandfather's Son. It's an autobiography. Very good so far. So that would be interesting. Jacqueline, Mrs. Dave the lawyer, and I were discussing what we could be doing on the podcast. One of the things I want to do is maybe some sort of book club. But another thing I want to do is maybe interview constitutional scholars, people who have really dedicated their lives, their educations to understanding this stuff and going through paragraph by paragraph some of these concepts, which are, I'm sure, very, were clearly written at the time, but today might not be as obvious, as evident, let's say, to use some words that they used back then. I really appreciate everybody joining me. I know it wasn't the smoothest reading. I don't think I set myself up for success here. I think I should have given it a read through last night and then gone through it today with a little more gusto. What is this? Thank you, by the way, Premium. I really appreciate the subscribe button smashed. Oh yeah, appreciate that. Or the like, whatever you smashed, I appreciate it. What's up? Hey, Dallas. I know I've been off screen for almost the whole month of August. There's been a few reasons for that. A, Congress is they're in recess. They're not going to be back until, I think, September 4th. And I've been doing a lot of historical stuff. At the same time, I've been slowly ramping up my practice, but I've been doing other things off screen as well. There's other little things. I've been trying to get back into my fitness routine, which I kind of fell out of in building the channel up, So now I'll do some of that faceless stuff, and I'll be running along and checking the chat. That's happened a couple times now. But it's been fun to know that I can do that. But I do miss being on camera too. There's a connection. There's more of a connection for sure. 100%. 100%. Thank you, Kirsten. Thank you. I 100K special. What can I say? Thank you so much, chat. We just got done reading the Declaration of Independence. It wasn't as smooth as I thought it would be. Federalist Paper, I don't know. You decide how smooth or unsmooth it went. I had a good time doing it, I'll say. I think I want to give it all another shot again. let's say maybe at 250K, I'll try to do the Constitution. Let's go through it in the chronological order. Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, and the Bill of Rights. Or wait, is that... Let's just make sure the chronological order... I'm wondering. Yeah, Declaration of Independence, July 4th, 1776. Constitution, September 17th, 1787. Bill of Rights, December 15th, 1791. Huzzah! You got to get into the character and go huzzah. So, okay. What happened, Premium? So, anyway, I was it's so funny how these things just keep coming back around. I'm sure things like this have happened. You have a leader rise up, and then you have the government trying to squash them back down. You know, private sector energy trying to whip the government into shape, make it actually efficient and work again. And there's resistance there. It's weird. That's weird. Huzzah! Yes, huzzah! I put together, and I just uploaded it, and I was gonna let it run, at least through the end of August. It's just through the next day or so, which is all the July 13th related hearings. We started with Cheadle on July 22nd, which was 9 days later. They had Cheadle in front of the Oversight Committee. And then a day later, they had the Pennsylvania State Police in front of a committee. I don't remember the committee. I think Homeland Security. I think it was Homeland Security. And then the next week, we had the new director, Roe and Paul Abate, deputy director of the FBI. They went in front of the Senate Judiciary, I think. And then there's been the Republican Forum, which was they invited Dan Bongino to come and talk. That is the whole caboodle there. It's 13 hours, I think. It's a 13-hour. You can check it out. I'm going to start streaming it here, only on Dave the Lawyer. Yes. So, and I'll be intermittently on that one too, as I am. It's Friday night, 5 o'clock here, and we're gonna start watching that a little bit together. So if you stay tuned, I'll get that set up. Thank you so much. Thank you for joining me today. This is the real the real fans here for this, watching me stumble through the Declaration of Independence and Federalist number 1. Thank you. Old English is not as easy as maybe it is. Maybe it's just me. It's always been like this for me. So with that said, I really appreciate you guys. Thank you so much. I could have never made it this far without you. Literally, figuratively, the whole kit and caboodle. Really. Thank you. Thank you so much. Be well. Stay tuned, because that's going to get going. All the July 13th hearings are coming up. Thank you so much.